Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Monday edition of Trade the Chain. It is Monday, May 3rd, and most of the people on this screen are no longer in the contiguous United States, which is kind of fun. But we got a great show because we actually couldn't come on today and not make it all about ETH. What ETH is doing is tremendous. It's crazy, and a lot of people are super stoked about it. Plus, we got Ryan, who's bringing us some really cool news about a public company getting into ETH. So we're going to hit it all up today. And Ryan, it's up to you. Take us away.
Thanks, Alex. This is just a reminder that all content provided by Trade the Chain and Market Rebellion is strictly for informational and educational purposes only. Absolutely none of this is investment advice. Do not listen to us. Trade the Chain is brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, a global community of traders in 23 time zones of all ages, all skill levels, all knowledge levels, all backgrounds, all using AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help them beat the market, despite my mouth of marbles. If you too want to trade like a crypto insider and you're not yet a member, go to TradeTheChain.com for a test drive. Wow, I really struggled through that.
They still got the name of the product, so it's all good. And moving over to marketrebellion.com/crypto. This is Monty and myself and our community at Market Rebellion. And with us, you get trade insights on a weekly basis. That's exits, entries, and stop losses, along with our access to our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting platform, a trading education curriculum, and a community of traders all throughout the world, and much more. If you're serious about trading crypto, this is the service that gives you everything you need all in one place. And you can start your first month trial for just $1 at marketrebellion.com/crypto. We also have a mobile app for Apple users and are hoping to get on Android soon enough. But with that being said, any thoughts here as we want to, before we begin?
CJ, that's an interesting outfit you got on. Is that the new look?
I was very sunburned last time I went to the beach, like bad. So, you know. Trying to just,
I wonder if the fans can guess which one of us is not in Puerto Rico. Just based on attire.
Before we get into the big boards, I just want to remind everyone, I've been beating the ETH drum all year.
Oh man, here he goes. ETH is at 3,200 because Ryan called it. We'll give him credit.
No, I didn't call it. No, of course not. I just saw the upside, and I've been paying attention to the fundamentals that I'll get into in a bit. But there are many reasons why it's up as much as it is, and why it could continue going up, and that's why I've been beating that drum. But,
how do you lift your hands? Aren't diamonds heavy?
I mean, I've been curling them. I've been doing curls, right?
All right, CJ, take it away.
So checking out the coin screener down here. Little bearish on the hourly, actually very bearish on the hourly. So that's pretty interesting after this extraordinary run, but very notable on the Trade the Chain dashboard nonetheless. One thing I want to mention that is very interesting that I hope to talk about more this week and actually provide a guide for our members at Market Rebellion is how to become an LP or liquidity provider to stake coins on Zero Exchange. That's a process that, is it correct? Both of Alex and Ryan, you guys are both liquidity providers for Zero?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Indeed.
And the returns are very nice, regardless of whether the price of Zero goes up or not. Like, you're just getting paid to provide liquidity. So hopefully we're going to go into that more in depth on how you can participate and stake that Zero. But it's interesting. I haven't done it yet. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm excited at the opportunities. What I want to talk about today when it comes to the technicals is volume, because when I was first coming into the space and studying technical analysis, there were a lot of analysts whose names shall remain nameless that they didn't stress volume. They're like, I don't really look at it very much, but I think that's kind of a grave mistake because volume is one of the most important things that price data gives us. It is one of the few leading indicators that can tell us and give us an idea of where price is going to go. And we want to pay attention for instances where we get extreme volume. And one example I want to allude to is a historic asset that has had crazy price action. And regardless of the asset we're looking at, I just want to point out this unique spike in volume that we saw. We saw this spike right here with just tons of volume when price was only at about 50 cents, another spike of a lot of large whales getting in as well. And then ultimately, that was a leading indicator to where price eventually became. We also have zero, which is kind of on that same path. We had a climb in volume previously here, and then recently last week, we're seeing another climb in volume. So that's very important and something that I am definitely paying attention to. But more importantly, let's go to Ethereum first, then I'll circle back around Bitcoin. But we saw the exact same thing in Ethereum. We saw a large spike in volume leading up to this week's price increase. As you can see here, last week around the 22nd, we saw massive spikes in bullish volume, and then that ultimately proceeded with a chart that is off the chain. I have to.
Oh, you.
So what an incredible run by Ethereum. However, with both ETH and Bitcoin, we're reaching a TD sell 9 tomorrow. I'm expecting to have some bullish volume on that and be a bullish catalyst. However, following that, one of our members in chats, who was it? This made me laugh a lot. Dan said, Cinco Day sell-off. And I think so. I think we may have a little bit of profit taking on both Ethereum and Bitcoin on May the 5th, the day or possibly a day or two after we reach that TD sequential sell 9 on the one day. So very interesting, very promising to see that volume come in. And, you know, I'm really liking what we're seeing with ETH. I really can't wait for Ryan to go into some more of those fundamentals because I'm curious as well. On Bitcoin, we're not seeing exactly the same thing. We're not seeing those large spikes in volumes that we would like to anticipate. And I think retail capital is just not speculating on Bitcoin in the way in which we had necessarily hypothesized. We had thought that, or at least I had thought that Bitcoin was going to move very quickly and then Ethereum was going to follow. But actually, we're seeing the reverse. We're seeing Ethereum continue to new all-time highs while Bitcoin still is in this neutral consolidation. So interesting to note there. But yeah, that TD sell 9 tomorrow is going to be very interesting for price action. And we're going to be watching very diligently to see what we get on that. Last thing I'll mention here before handing it off and passing it back to you guys is Glassnode and some data that we have on this chart below that I'll explain. So this measures the UTXOs of the Bitcoin transactions that are currently sitting in profit. And I'm not going to go totally into what a actual UTXO is. It's essentially an unspent output of a transaction in Bitcoin, but it can give us an instance of how price action has behaved in the past. And as you can see, in our previous bull market, we had essentially 5 times these reset periods. And we've really only hit our first this bull market. So if we go on to continue to climb up and hit more of these reset periods like we did in the past, we may have a lot longer to go on this overall bull market. And I think this is a very long-term bullish indication for Bitcoin, despite the fact we're really not seeing any substantial volume come in just yet. But a little bit of a mishmash there.
That's some really interesting stuff, CJ. And I just want to quickly share this one chart that I found pretty interesting. I think Ryan will really like this one. But this is just a performance comparison between Bitcoin and ETH so far in 2021 in terms of percentage gain. As you can see, in the last 2 weeks, we've really seen some strong divergence between ETH and Bitcoin. This is important to note. You know, we talk a lot about this relationship between projects. We've seen DeFi projects gaining a tremendous amount of speculation in the past weeks. And as a result, ETH has really climbed to new highs, and it's great to see. I want to focus in on the technicals yesterday, because yesterday was a really interesting day for ETH. And I think in a lot of ways, it's set up, yesterday's price action set up today's price action and allowed us to climb to such tremendous levels in such a short amount of time. And, it's such a great example of the importance of breaking through a resistance level, whether it be a technical or a psychological level, and the run that can happen thereafter. So taking a look at Ethereum here, yesterday was such an important day. Like I mentioned, we were pressing up against this critical level of 3K, an all-time high for ETH. And as you can imagine, when you have a run up like this with, 7 straight days of bullish price action, it's not surprising that people are taking profits around this level of 3K. People that entered a trade around here at this level of 2140 just a week ago are probably content to take profits and probably set a limit sell order here at just below 3K in order to capitalize on any potential upswings. So we saw some resistance here, but what was really encouraging for me was the close of this candle, right? Although it was a bit of a doji, for me, it was encouraging that we didn't get a reversal at this level. Typically, when you're pressing up against such a strong level of psychological resistance, like the round number of 3K, you can expect more of a pullback from the result of these sell orders being triggered. So the fact that, the bulls were still kind of buying this, even with these sell orders being triggered, was tremendously bullish in my opinion. And it really set up nicely for some tremendous price action today. Like CJ pointed out, the volume today is so strong. And I think that's just because of the fact that, we were able to hold just below 3K, remain with a bullish sentiment, stay above this 20 period moving average. And, once we got past these sell orders, closed the day, there was no reason why we couldn't climb higher. Now, like CJ pointed out, tomorrow we're minting a TD sequential 9 candle. And whenever we get this much of a divergence between the current price and the 20 period moving average, I definitely encourage people to start considering taking profits. Whether it be to the downside or to the upside, a divergence from this 20 period moving average is a sign that we are, getting extended either to the overbought side or oversold side. And I think in this instance, we're definitely starting to look a bit overbought. But I mean, overall, Ethereum has tremendous fundamentals behind it. It's got very sound utility, and it makes sense that it's stealing some of the market share away from Bitcoin. So great week for ETH, and excited to see what it's going to do the rest of this week.
Those are all great points, guys. And, going back to what you were initially talking about, CJ, with trading volume, right? Spiking up right before the run. If you look at NVT ratio, it started to bottom out at just about the right time. And when NVT ratio bottoms out the way it did back towards the end of the last major bull run that was fueled by ICOs, that's when you have trading volume starting to eclipse like the growth of market cap. And when that happens, you usually have more buyers than sellers, and that sets ETH up for a long-term bullish run, even if there's short-term price taking or profit taking. And then also to your point, Monty, about how ETH is gaining market share against Bitcoin. Fundstrat recently had a research note out when the last time ETH had more than 30% of Bitcoin's market cap, it shot up to about 80% of Bitcoin's market cap. So if that pattern repeats itself, I mean, you could easily see ETH hitting perhaps 10,000 by the end of the year. I think that's a little ambitious, but I don't think it's entirely impossible, because when you look at active addresses holding ETH, they're well over 770,000. This is well above an all-time high set late last year in November. And I got more, guys. And then the number of transactions on the ETH blockchain has already hit 1.376 million. That's more than 22% higher than it was at this time last year. So when you put that all together and you look at the total value locked on in DeFi projects, it's up over 72 billion for the first time ever, right? And you have platforms like Maker up 9%, Aave up 13%, Compound up 4% already this year. Momentum is clearly on the side of growth here. And it just feels like, that Bitcoin maxi prophecy that I've been trying to make happen might actually come true.
Well, I just want to say two things. One is, folks, if you don't know what an MVT ratio is, the closest thing to associate it with is like a PE ratio for traditional equities. It's like crypto's own formula. for price to earnings. And a decent amount of people use that to try to characterize some sort of fundamentals around a crypto. And the next thing is, you heard it here first, folks. This is it. ETH to 10,000. Ryan's called it just now.
No. Fundstrat called it last week. And part of the reason why, there's another reason why they like that. All these DeFi projects that are gaining in total value lock and that are helping ETH eat up market share versus Bitcoin, they're generating a ton of fees for them, like 3 times the amount of fees versus any fees being generated on Bitcoin, right? So that's incentivizing them to keep building on the ETH blockchain, even though it's slower and more expensive than Avalanche or Binance chain. So it feels like to me, my untrained eye, that we are in for an extended bull run here, at least from the Ethereum point of view.
And just to what you just touched on, mentioning BSC and Avalanche, this just goes to show that what the opportunity is available for those two, as well as they start to take hold and get used and implemented more, such as like Zero Exchange and others that'll soon follow. It shows a lot of potential for those, little brothers of Ethereum.
And I think whoa, what's that feedback? So part of what's going on with ETH is that I think the community is starting to recognize it, because you have tweet volume up 90% against the 30-day moving average. And this is happening at the same time Bitcoin and Binance chain are down, right? And trading volume's up, like CJ pointed out. Well, Bitcoin is off 30%, BNB is down 35% versus its moving average. So it just feels like there's a galvanization around the Ethereum blockchain and around ETH.
Yeah, and CJ, it would be interesting now that we've had such a large price movement, how that price appreciation looks on the DeFi lockup chart. Because we always talk about it going up or down and trying to value it to where ETH's price is at a given time, and that's Ryan's strongest argument when we go through those. And so I'd like to see if this thing just propelled up, and there you go.
72 billion.
72 billion, all-time high on DeFi lockup. So cool.
We're really
Ryan, what's that?
Obviously, we're really bullish on ETH. And so let's just take a look at the chart. I wanted to mention this earlier, but I said a lot, so I stopped. But we got the Fibonacci on the weekly aiming up at approximately 3,500. So
Jeez.
We don't have any historic resistance until that point. However, that looks like an area in which we could see a potential pullback before a break to new highs, and possibly a nice buying opportunity. In my opinion, still holding ETH, a good week to hold it. If you want to transfer it to MetaMask or do the other things I've been doing, but might be a critical level there.
What's dominance on ETH right now? It's interesting because that's this big push ups to the upside is helping push down obviously the BTC, especially with it dropping.
So this Ethereum dominance, 16% of the overall market cap.
Wow. Okay. Almost to a new high territory there. Can't really, yeah.
So I'm curious at our 2017, 2018 levels. Looks like we got all the way up to 30% at a high.
Well, yeah, from the ICO boom. So Ethereum was being used on so many projects. Ryan, what's the news you have for us today? You have for us a first public company to get Ethereum for treasury?
Yeah, this is yet another argument in favor of ETH's bull case, right? Mogo, which is publicly traded on NASDAQ, they didn't buy a lot of ETH. It's only about 400,000, but it's notable that they put ETH into their treasury, right? So now you have publicly traded companies buying into the ETH utility and use case and starting to believe in it. And we saw what happened with Bitcoin earlier this year and late last year when companies started buying it up and putting it into treasury, and you have all these institutional products like trusts and ETFs north of the border, and them buying up large amounts of Bitcoin and what it did to the value. And it's not hard to see why, you know, we could see a run up like Fundstrat was discussing. You know, they won't be the last company to buy ETH. I'm just wondering who the next one would be and how much they might buy, right?
Again, just another big, strong proponent for Ethereum, and this is just going to things like this are just going to continue to drive that price to the 10,000 or towards the $10,000 mark that a lot of people are saying. So, huge positive news. Monty, what are your thoughts on Ethereum before we head out?
Nothing. I mean, I like the fundamentals, always have. You know, I think there's tremendous utility, and it makes sense that it's taking back some of the market share from Bitcoin because it has such a wide range of applications. All these DeFi assets are being built on it. You know, it serves a much wider purpose than just store of value. And as much as I love Bitcoin, I do think it's, you know, been overwhelmingly dominant for no other reason than it was kind of the first mover, well established, and, you know, now it now has institutional backing. ETH's starting to check those boxes as well. So I think it, you know, is going to continue to climb and it's going to have a great rest of the year.
I have a question for Ryan. Was there a motive for why this particular company bought Ether? Because it's likely not going to be the same thesis as being the store value sound money narrative, which Bitcoiners love to pick on ETH and say, you know, no corporation is ever going to buy ETH because it's got no fixed supply. It's not sound money. But, you know, I'm just playing devil's advocate. What would you say to that?
So the thing about Bitcoin is that it's not yet a store of value. It's too volatile. So what companies are doing when they're buying it is they're buying it because they believe in the upside. And with ETH, there's obviously much more upside because of how much more ETH is up, like what, 1,100%? Or something to that effect in the last 12 months, whereas Bitcoin's up like 300%, which is nothing to shake a stick at. But when you're looking at the price appreciation of the two assets, and if you're going to buy Bitcoin anyway, and you're only going to buy 1% of it, why not put 0.5% into ETH? Right? I mean, at this point, does it really matter if you're only buying $400,000 worth of ETH into a corporate treasury when you have a 5% mandate for your corporate holdings and what the potential upside could be? If companies who bought ETH bought in at, say, 2,500 and it goes to 10,000, I mean, that's the same argument that Michael Saylor is making about Bitcoin and why MicroStrategy should hold it to a degree. No one's going to call it a store of value or digital gold, what have you, but the upside is there and it makes sense.
Balance sheet arbitrage. That's all I think it is. And I don't care what convictions people have and say, blah, blah, blah. We saw what Tesla did. They did it exactly for what they intended to, went up in value. They shaved off some of their profits there to take back and to continue. That's the way it is. Nobody's becoming a martyr here for the long-term belief. You know, it's just balance sheet arbitrage and improve, you know, price to earnings. So, all right, very cool. Well, guys, thank you for doing an ETH episode. This was actually kind of fun because we actually always treat ETH like a redheaded stepchild on most episodes. Oh boy, Ryan with the finger.
No. Earlier this year, we were talking about how ETH might temporarily flip in Bitcoin, right? What was that, a month ago? We talked about how it could potentially surpass it briefly before Bitcoin regains the dominant spot. So it's not something that we've completely ignored, and we've seen the momentum building. I think we're just finally starting to realize it.
No, absolutely. And so this is actually, going back to that episode that we did, this is actually going to be interesting to see where this dominance, you know, ends up being as it increases. So it's going to be cool. And we'll see. All right, everybody. Cool. Glad to be back. Sorry we missed you on Friday. We will see you again tomorrow. So hang on to your handlebars. Happy trading, and drop us some notes in the comments on, you know, are you an ETH maxi or not, and what it means to you. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.